So I guess I'll jump in. Mine is less a talk, more an experiment. I'm talking about a bunch of different technologies put together in one project. I think I called it package and package Inception or something like that. If you're curious, you can read up on Twitter or our Svelte Society Austria website. Little teaser here. Yeah, so I kind of wanted to take you along with a little experiment that I thought about, and it's with using Turborepo. So the stuff that I did in preparation was to kind of initialize Turborepo. What Turborepo does is it saves your output in your. I think I should a little bit. No, that's too big. It saves the build output, like all the different steps, and caches them pretty smartly. It also synchronizes those build cachings across teams. So if you work on a team, you can save up a lot of build time, especially if you use a lot of CI/CD. You can reuse those cached build steps just in your CI/CD and be done a lot earlier, and the worker is free to jump on to the next task. So yeah, just to show you how that kind of looks like, you have the .turbo folder, and it has just some information about the output of the terminal. So also the output of the terminal is part of the cache. And you can, in the configuration, you can also define which outputs will be relevant for cache. So it does some smart hacking under the hood to speed up build time across teams. So I'm using Turborepo in combination with pnpm. pnpm is pretty great to have multiple packages inside of one repository. So as you can see, we have this apps folder where all of our apps live, and then we have a packages folder where all of our packages that are shared across across the apps are used. So for a great example, if you can extract away your ESLint configuration, which, yeah, it's actually pretty easy. I think I just copied that out from one of the projects, and then we can reuse it inside. Where's workspace? Yeah. So you can reuse it inside of one of your apps. You might be even to be able to reuse it in one of your packages, but I'm not sure there. So with this workspace, it kind of looks through your packages that you have by the name in the package JSON, and you uses that package. So that's really nice. If you, for example, have a lot of different Svelte applications in that one repository, you can reuse your custom ESLint config, share it across, and if you change this in one, if you change it in that one package place, then it will be updated and reused across all of them. So you have only one. You only need to update it once. Yeah, you could probably also do that with tests. Maybe I'm not really sure. Yeah. So another interesting thing, Ivan already jumped in that a little bit. You have the possibility with SvelteKit to kind of generate your packages through SvelteKit. And the cool thing is, if you take a look here in the apps folder, you have this lazy action, and you have the lazy action down here in the packages. And the way this works is that you kind of define this. This is, by the way, part of my packages. I moved some of the or extended some of the common logic samples from the project that we worked on and published them as npm packages, for example, the lazy action. So inside of the Svelte config, you have this option inside of Kit to define where you want your packages. And as it happens, you can auto-generate it into this packages folder. And now this lazy action is available to install inside of your mono repository. So for example, in the stocks folder, if we jump there, stocks, we could do a pnpm install of, I'll be lazy and copy the name. And it should take it. It did not take it. There we are. Oh, see, no, so there, package JSON. Is it? Oh, wrong folder. Good. So in the dependencies, we now have the lazy action with the workspace installed. What we can do if we don't really care about the number, which is what I usually do, is use the star. So it updates automatically and you don't run into any issues there. So you kind of, this is where the Inception starts. So you can, with this lazy action, you can, if we go outside again of that, outside in the root of the project, you can run pnpm run package, which I already did, so it will do nothing. So it will run Turborepo, extend it a little bit, run package, which will run all of the package commands in all of the apps in parallel. So it's pretty cool. And we had no changes, so it was just checking if anything did change, and if there would have been a change, let's just simulate that for now inside of source lib. Let's jump inside of here. Maybe we want to also log that real handy shortcut Windows dot to use emojis. My most used shortcut, I think even more than copy paste. So so we want to have an update here, and if we run the package command again, if we run it again, then it should directly update. Have a look. It did. No, okay, then I probably have my pen. Oh, yeah. packages dependency. No. Okay, that's interesting.
Live coding.
Live coding, yeah. Run dev. Let's run all of the dev servers in parallel. From here, something. Again. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So now we kind of successfully republished or internally in our monorepo this little update inside of the inside of the package folder. So we have now a new action, and we have this console log that we added a listener. So we already installed it in the. Let's close it. Nope. Down a little bit, and let's working on that is actually pretty easy. So if we go here inside of the main route of this documentation page, where we could describe what all of the different packages that we have are doing. So it's probably not working with autocomplete, as we already saw today. It's not. Okay. It's just. Do I do it named? I'm not sure about my own package here. Lazy action index. What do I export? Default. Okay, so it's not a named export. Lazy action. Okay. So we can use this lazy action now. Yep. And we can see on this lazy action, we also have this nice type syntax highlighting. Also inside of the template, which is pretty nice after working on a Nux application for some time now, where we don't have code completion inside of the template. I'm really missing that. So we can now reuse that, and if we go into the app, we start up the development server. Oh, yeah, okay. And they should now see that too small. Then we've added a listener for that image here, which of course immediately resolves. But if you take a look, for example, at the page where we use that, then there are a lot of product images. So if you scroll down, you see them loading in lazily. If you so that would be a good use case for that package. So if we jump over Before we continue, any questions so far? Did I lose anyone along the way?
Yeah, could you just share quickly like what's the goal of monorepo, like how do you use it?
I don't really use it, so it's more an experiment, as I said. But the idea behind the monorepo is that you have your reusable code that you would use in different projects, that you have that right there with you and have it declared as a package and can use it as a package and then just deploy your different apps or websites through CI/CD or whatever you use to the different locations that you want to put them in. So if you have your UI library, as Ivan said, so your tomato button, you can have that in your like this. You can have it as a package. You can have your tomato button package and reuse it across your projects. One great example would be to have, this is a little bit what dipping into what our designer does. So our designer at our company, he's pretty fluent with Vue. So he kind of builds the design system for projects. He builds them out as Vue components and publishes it to the web as a website for us developers to take a look at and play around with. So as we're using Tailwind in a lot of the new projects, he also has a lot of the Tailwind styles already predefined and documented in the style guide, which is awesome. So it's we can do the best job at developing, like copy pasting, when we have that set up like perfectly. So this would be a great example to have a monorepo, for example, to have documentation, to have your style guides as another app, and then have the live app, and you can deploy them all independently from each other, and maybe even have some GraphQL server also deployed to a different backend if you use static export of your site, your front-end site. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Good.
But is it used across different projects or for one project?
So you kind of have different projects inside of one repository.
And with visibility and so on, because normally you can use, for example, a private npm repository and extract all the packages.
Yes, you can do that,
but you can give only access to the repositories you want and so on. So
that is true, but with that you kind of open yourself up to like if you have two apps where you use your UI components, I think that's kind of fine. But if you have to manage 5 or 10 different applications where only maybe the configuration changes because you have 10 different clients, to update all of those projects, that's a lot of work. And if you have it set up as a monorepo and just pull in the latest UI components that are just there, then you kind of save yourself from doing that work manually.
But how is it reflected in Git? Basically, do you hold this like everything as one repository?
Yes, it's one repository. Yeah. So this is one repository, and it just has the packages folder and the apps folder, but you're pretty free to define.
So if I want to share packages between two projects or two repositories, is it like copy paste them one to another, or
you can either copy paste, or of course what you can do if you need to share it, like if you want to, for example, if I would want to put all of my packages into a monorepository, have one page for documentation. So I can use all of the packages, don't have to npm install all of the different ones. But what I can do to share it outside of the project is, of course, go through the packages that I have here and publish them to npm. So that's another option that and another step that I can take down the line anyway.
Also, if packages depend on each other, when you publish, you can make sure they are all synchronized, and you only publish one, wait to update the second one, publish the third one, and then
yeah. So with dependencies, exactly, that's a very good point. Like if you have interconnected and packages that depend on each other, that and it's if I would write tests, I would also tell you it would be
why there is an if at the beginning.
I would also tell you that it would be easier to test if you have it in a monorepo, because then you can check for all the interconnecting pieces and see that the puzzle pieces come together. Yeah, it was cool to have you here.
Thank you very much. Nice to meet you.
See you.
See you.
You present next time. So.
Bye bye.
Bye. Yeah. So yeah, maybe just pnpm is also great to save space for, like, especially if you have a huge stuff where you reuse your node modules across many different apps, because it I think they use symlinks or to set up all the node modules, so you save a lot of disk space by using a pnpm. And the configuration actually looks pretty easy. You kind of define your pipeline, everything except for this little packages thingy here and some small adaptions came out of the box, and you can define also a little bit more complex build procedures where you have, for example, your build depend on, like, this is depending on your previous build, but you could also put in that it depends on your linting and depends on your type checking. Please, both of my friends here. And yeah, so you can kind of think of in the Turborepo, you can also think about like pipelines of how you build and package or lint your project. Yeah, I think there's not a lot that I could show you that wouldn't be repetitive at this point. I mean, created a package, packaged the package, reuse the package in the apps folder again.
It's called SvelteKit.
Yeah, it's packages. Sorry, yeah, Svelte packages. You can Google packages and yeah. So the persistent store I talked about, which is actually pretty small, and you just get a store. You can write, read it, have the subscribe function where you update the local storage, and yeah, you can also have read and write hooks if you want to manipulate the data before reading or writing it to store, which we kind of used to save a little space and not put all of the product data into local storage, plus just the IDs, and then when we extract it again, just enrich it with the
How do you deal with the card?
Little bit, yes. Yeah. So I guess I'll finish here. Thank you all for coming. I think there are no more questions.
By the way, there is an emoji each commit message. So
No, yeah, I've been really sloppy. I have too much work.
You have the add-on for the emoji because I have this. In VS Code, you can have an add-on to.
So automatically? No, that's
not automatically, but it's proposing you so like this. You know, fix will be about.
Yeah.
You should go on the EQL and you see the.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll just finish here.